Good morning, class. We are Maria F. Ramirez,
Maria G. Ramirez,
Almendra Cordova,
and Sandra Gonzalez.
And today we will be discussing the impact of resiliency on academic success and failure, and also how differentiated instruction plays a part in resiliency. Resiliency. Resiliency is the ability for an individual to respond and adapt to difficult circumstances. Students who do not acquire resiliency are more likely to feel defeated and unable to respond to difficult circumstances. In simpler terms, a child who is resilient is able to adapt quickly in new and unexpected situations, while the child who is not resilient will fail to accommodate to stressful events in his or her life. Academic achievement. Academic achievement is the extent that the student has been able to perform in a desired way with regards to his or her educational goals. Before we consider how resiliency affects academic achievement, we have to define the personality traits that proves a student has resiliency. The traits that a resilient student has are agreeableness and conscientiousness. A student that is able to display the agreeableness trait will most likely display empathy and will be able to socially adapt. The students who display the conscientiousness trait will be able to engage in a task, work diligently, and will be able to achieve the desired goals. This means that students with the conscientiousness trait will be able to recover from unexpected events in a favorable manner. Research has demonstrated that children's personalities can be used to predict future academic achievement in math and reading. Resiliency affects academic achievement, but the results depend on how we measure resiliency. For example, when we compare resilient children who live in poverty, they are more academically successful than non-resilient children living in poverty. According to research, resilient children perform better in their literature and math courses. There are children with high threshold resilience and those with low threshold resilience. Children with high threshold resilience are children who experience poverty and perform at the level or above the level of someone who did not experience poverty. Children with low threshold resilience perform at the level or above the level of children who also experience poverty, but they perform lower than those who did not experience poverty. In other words, resiliency affects academic achievement, but when we compare students who experience poverty to those who did not, some children living in poverty are still underperforming even when they are being resilient. The low threshold resilient children have good academic achievement when we compare them to those who also experience poverty, but overall, their academic achievement is negatively affected when we compare them to children who did not experience poverty. Resiliency affects academic achievement, but the amount of resiliency that a child has affects their performance.
Differential instruction is teaching each student in a way that they will learn. Not every student is the same, and because of that, they all tend to learn differently. As a teacher, we should be aware of the different ways our students tend to learn and adapt to the lesson being taught. There are 4 different types of learnings a child may acquire. One of them will be visual learners. These learners tend to prefer to see information and to visualize the relationship between ideas. The second kind of learners are the auditory learners. They prefer to hear information rather than reading it or seeing it displayed visually. The third kind of learners are reading and writing. They learn best when reading and writing, interacting with text, if more powerful for them than hearing or seeing images. And lastly, we have the kinesthetic learners. They are hands-on, experimental learners. They learn best by doing different things. Teachers must incorporate differential instruction in their classroom because of these 4 ways that students may learn. Teachers tend to just show their students a PowerPoint full of information they must learn, and maybe at certain points they read from it. But in this circumstance, only the visual learners will really understand. It shouldn't be very hard for a teacher to incorporate these 4 learning methods into their classroom, because students tend to learn differently. Here we can see the different ways a teacher may teach and the ways that the students tend to learn. We see the PowerPoints, which would help the visual learners. Reading a book is something great for the reading and writing learners. Taking notes would help the kids who like to write instead of everything else. Group projects work perfectly for the kinesthetic learners, as well as presentations. Talking aloud is an auditory learner type of thing to do.
Teachers can play a part in building resiliency for students who are trying to overcome obstacles or traumas in their personal lives, and they can do so by differentiating instruction. Young children will react differently to certain stressors going on in their lives. Therefore, it is important for teachers to have alternative options for these children to develop their speaking, reading, writing, emotional, and social skills. This is why teachers should have a plan and action to differentiate the instruction in order to keep all types of personalities and children engaged in their own way. One way to differentiate instruction in efforts to build resilience is by incorporating superhero play to the classroom. In 2017, photographer Josh Rossi photographed kids with diseases and disabilities as Justice League superheroes. His plan was to take the things that were seen as weaknesses for the kids and use the power of superheroes to turn them into strengths. He took the pictures and created a movie-style poster-style image for each child and surprised them on camera. He later said that it was amazing seeing the excitement on their faces. This shows how children can forget any hardship they are going through when they become a brave and powerful superhero. Superhero play is beneficial to any student because it allows them to leave behind all of their troubles and engage in a world where they are helping, making a difference, and spreading positivity. Furthermore, superhero play promotes the development of speaking and social skills because the children are interacting and cooperating with their classmates to save the world. Lastly, the teacher could provide storybooks about superheroes for the children to read and then gain inspiration to make up their own superhero story to enhance and promote their learning.
And we hope that you learned about the impact of resiliency on academic success and failure, and how differentiated instruction plays a part in resiliency.